Welcome back once again, my friends. Ann Hayes, aka Mama G, co-creator, along with the prime creator of Fiercely Fulfilled Feminine, where I help stars to heal sexual trauma, reclaim their power, and experience true fulfillment through what I call the sacred sexuality reclamation method. Now, what I've got for you today is essentially a three-part process to help you to successfully release trapped trauma. And I'm going to tell you, this is a process that I call, by the way, back to life, because that's what it literally does, is it brings you back to life so that you can begin to open up and expand into all the abundance and whatever it is and prosperity, love that you truly desire in your life. Now, I just want to back up and let you know that anything that I am divinely guided to share is, first of all, it comes from a plethora of resources. It could be my own, a combination typically of my own experience, research, books, conversations with others, observations, connecting with clients, videos, you name it, all kinds of information and inspiration from different sources. And then, of course, divine download. So this is a combination. And I'm going to let you know, you're going to look at it and say, okay, well, that looks like it's somatic healing. That looks like a little bit of reparenting and inner child work. And you would be 100% right, because I truly believe unless we release trapped emotions, unless we find techniques that allow us to do this, unless we take the time to reparent our inner child and those aspects, we are not going to heal. Okay, so stay with me, because I have my own unique way of delivering that within my own unique frequency, so that those who are divinely aligned and assigned are going to benefit from what I'm about to share. So just keep that open mind if you would. Also, with that being said, know that this process is not a one and off. It's not a one and done. It's not linear. And it's definitely not a strict formula that you need to follow. In other words, you've got to go to A, B, C, D, and if you don't do it all, it's not complete. No, this is more intuitive and fluid. There's flow to it. And in different parts, it can be taken out. It's a process, and you can access whatever part of that process works for you in the moment that it works, and know that it is all unfolding perfectly. So take the pressure off. Don't shame yourself. Don't blame yourself if you think it has to look a certain way and it's not unfolding in the way that you believe it should. Take the should out, take the shame out, and know that it's all good, good, good to go. Okay, so like I said, it's not linear. In fact, with this three-part process, you're going to find that there's some interweaving that goes on. It's fluid. In other words, it's not like this ends, that ends, and this is the. I'm just letting you know right now. So stay with me, and I'm about to explain to you a little bit about what that is. So overview real quick is that in this process, there's reconnection. I help you to reconnect to your body, because oftentimes with trauma, and especially sexual trauma, you disassociate, you distract, you avoid, you escape. Because that's certainly everything that I've done, and at times can still do. Okay, so it's about reconnecting, starting with the body. Reconnecting with your body, reconnecting to yourself, because your body contains so much wisdom. And then the second part or aspect of the process is about reconciliation and reconception. It's about tapping into, okay, what are the messages that I'm actually receiving? Where does this come from? And then taking it from there. And then finally, the last part of the process, which I'm going to get into it in a little more detail. This is an overview, by the way, is the recreation aspect of it, where you're literally, you become the storyteller. So, like when you are reconciling and reconceiving, you are now becoming the storyteller or the playwright of your life. Now, everybody talks about you create your reality. Here's the deal, though. Not everybody tells you how to do it, and not everybody understands that unless you can have access to the tools and your biological computer in its most optimal state, you're not going to necessarily create the reality that you desire. And then you may allow others to shame you, or you may feel shamed. So I'm not going to say, oh, you create your reality. I'm going to tell you that I'm going to help you to become the storyteller and the playwright of your life. And I'm going to help you to be able to access the tools and your biological computer and your neurology and whatever else is involved so that you can do that. Now let's look at, I just want to share an example. Okay. Let's look at your laptop. If you have a laptop is a computer. Your body is a biological computer. It's galactic technology. However, even your computer, if it gets overwhelmed, if it gets burnt out, it's going to shut down. It's not going to function properly. The screen may go black. So if you can't access your computer, maybe you want to get on it and you want to write the most magnificent story and you're not able to access that computer. So what needs to happen first is maybe it needs a new battery, maybe it needs to cool down, maybe it needs to be restarted, rebooted, updated, maybe it's become outdated, maybe there needs to be some integration that needs to happen so that you can then begin to access that computer. So it's not just, oh, you create your reality. It's a lot more complex than that. And I don't mean to mock those who say that because I'm not being any better. So what I essentially am trying to do is don't shame yourself if you believe that your external reality is not showing up in the way that you would truly desire. Let's just take that off the table right now because there's also, and I'm just going to sneak in there, divine blueprint, soul's desire. Sure, renegotiation is always possible, but what does your higher self decide? What does your soul decide truly? Just saying. Anyways, so yeah, you can then do what I call is frequency. And then the last part, excuse me, is recreation. So I've got the 4 R's, 3 steps. So we've got reconnection. Second step is reconciliation and reconception. I call it the R&R. Third step is recreation. So literally you get to alterate the fabric. Alter the fabric of your reality and create a tailor-made life. But even a tailor needs to learn how to effectively tailor clothes and to do it well. Okay, so I'm going to talk about what trap trauma is, how it comes about, talk about how trap trauma can show up in the body, and then I'm going to go over the details and break down that process for you, what I again call the back to life process. And do know that all this background information, I think is important to help to support your ability to more effectively use each of these parts of this process. Okay. However, there are going to be timestamps and you get to choose whatever you choose to do. Fair enough. Okay. So trapped trauma is essentially when an event occurs or a series of events that had a response or reaction, where you had a reaction or response to that might be perceived as a negative. Okay, maybe there were lower vibrational emotions attached or connected to the event and it wasn't a pleasant experience for you. So then it became trauma because your nervous system, depending on what your thoughts are, what was going on when it happened and what your emotions might have been, you might have sent a message to the brain then to the body that said, oh my goodness, this is dangerous. This is not safe. I'm scared. I'm afraid. I'm hurt. I'm angry. And then your body, to protect itself, the nervous system said, okay, we need to start to shut down different parts of the nervous system. Okay. Or even, it might be even as much as disassociating from your body, depending on how deep the trauma was, so that your body can survive. It's a survival mechanism. So your nervous system, your brain, and the nervous system is meant to help your biological computer, your body to survive. And it's going to do whatever it needs to make sure that it happens so it can compartmentalize. I don't know if I said that right. Compartmentalize, okay, certain events, okay. But what it's definitely going to do is to shut down different parts of the body. And those emotions actually become trapped in the body and they show up as very dense energy. And whenever there's dense energy in the body, the chi, the life force energy, is not able to flow freely. And when it's not able to flow freely, then the brain is not able to effectively communicate with different parts of the body, and different parts of the body are not going to be able to communicate its needs to the brain. Remember, the brain is the interface. It's the physical interface, and it's a really critical part of your existence. So we can't just ignore the physiology. We can't just ignore the biology. The nervous system needs some stabilization. So the nervous system, like I said, that lack of flow, difficulty communicating, choppy communication, it's like a bad Wi-Fi signal, and then your body's not going to function optimally. And so how can this show up? This can show up in a number of different ways depending on the trauma and the circumstances around the trauma, and understanding that it's all, your body is an ecosystem. So it can show up in every aspect of your body. The number one way is going to be autoimmune, is literally attacking the body. An autoimmune disease, it could be something as severe as cancer. It could be digestive challenges, not able to digest what happened. Headaches, think of the brain gut axis, okay? Chronic headaches. For me, I know I had, what are those headaches? Migraine headaches, okay? Just trying to wrap your head around the experience and process it. Like, did that happen? It could be challenges with the throat. Remember, the throat and the sacral connected, especially with respect to sexual trauma. So that makes a whole lot of sense that you would have potentially issues around the digestion, around the throat, the heart, obviously, with grief and pain and hurt and a sense of abandonment and rejection, whatever that might have been. Could be neck pain. A lot of fear is stored in the neck. Could be kidneys, something to do with the kidneys not able to filter properly because of fear again. So many different challenges that can show up in so many different ways. Obviously, mental health challenges, anxiety, depression, OCD, bipolar, even as severe as schizophrenia, are all connected to unresolved grief, unresolved trauma, trapped trauma. So it's all, as I believe, completely curable. Not just treatable, curable. Okay. However, the depth of the trauma determines, I guess, how much needs to happen in order to bring one back into homeostasis and harmony. Okay. So those are all the different ways it can show up. The spine too, because your central channel, the pranic channel, goes right up the spine. And that's the central communication center. Okay. So a lot of challenges with that. Obviously, fertility issues. So I think I've said enough there. Okay, so basically any physical illness, condition, disease, challenge, mental health challenge, spiritual challenge, every single challenge, I truly believe, is due to, and it's been proven scientifically, not just spiritually, is due to unresolved trauma, and unresolved grief related to that trauma. Okay, so with that being said, let's get into this process that I call the back to life process. You see, because it's about bringing you into greater harmony, releasing that trapped trauma so that you again can get back to the kind of life that you deserve to have and that you likely desire to have, with full prosperity and passion and pleasure and love and genuine connection, all of it, luxury, whatever it is you desire, true fulfillment. So the first part is called the body reconnect. So this is where the reconnection comes in. Again, what often happens is through trauma, there's all up in the head, disconnect, distract, avoid, escape. It's about coming back in. And the reason this all happens is because it's not comfortable to experience painful emotions such as sadness and deep grief and sorrow and even the feeling of depression and anger, because all this stuff needs to come up at some point. Okay. And it's not fun. Anyone who's done any level of shadow work, human shadow work, the inner shadow, the inner whatever, knows that's not necessarily a fun process, but it's necessary. So the body reconnect, essentially what I guide you to do, I first start with some grounding and anchoring techniques, and depending on who you are and who's showing up, I may do a number of grounding techniques. It could involve breathing, chanting, moving, a lot of different somatic techniques to essentially bring you into your parasympathetic nervous system. Because when I bring you into the parasympathetic nervous system, you're more calm, you're more present, you're more likely to be still, and you have a better ability to reconnect to your body and to your own emotions and bodily sensations. Because when you're present and when you're calm, you're present. You're not focused on the past and you're not needlessly worrying about the future. You're right here, right now. And when you're right here, right now, and you're with me or you're with yourself in a safe environment, you know you're safe. Your body gets that message. And when your body feels calm and it feels safe, and when your body feels safe, then it's ready to release. So those are the perfect conditions. So I would then guide you to close your eyes, and then I would have you do, some more cleansing breaths. Depending on the situation, I might guide you to breathe. A certain way, I might guide you to breathe based on how tapped in you are to your bodily sensations. So, with that being said, I would then guide you to a certain part of your body that is calling your attention, and to go, and just focus on that certain part of the body, and then identify the bodily sensations and the physical sensations that you are experiencing. So, for example, it could be tightness, it could be coldness, heat, it could be numb, it could be a burning sensation, it could be pain, it could be a headache, it could be a tight jaw, it could be, kind of a rapid heartbeat or a pulse. It could be any number of things. It's just I help you to identify the bodily sensation that you're experiencing in that moment. And then once that has been identified, if it has been identified, and if it has, that's great. If not, that's great too. Remember, there's no right or wrong way to do this. And then I would guide you to see if there's a particular emotion that you would connect to that sensation. For example, and I'm going to look at the 8 primary emotions would be anger, fear, pain, joy, passion, love, shame, guilt. And of course, there are many emotions that fit under those. And I also would add numbness. Okay, I had a somatic healing coach. I want to give her credit, Chen Rizra from Israel, who also added numbness, which I thought was very valuable, because let's make this valid. Let's not shame anybody, because you know what? I'm not feeling an emotion right now. I'm feeling numb. This is just where I'm at. I'm not feeling it. And that's completely valid. It's just a diagnostic of where you are. If you're showing up and you're willing to just be present, that's the first step. That's huge. So be patient with yourself. Do not ever shame yourself. It's all unfolding perfectly, exactly the way it needs to for you. And then from there, depending on, again, what's going on, I may continue. Time may be a factor, and I may say, okay, when was the last time you experienced that sensation or that emotion? Then, when was the first time? And something may come to you. Okay. And there could be a circumstance, it could be a little child or whatever, that was something very traumatic and upsetting. And all of a sudden it's coming into your conscious awareness. It could be anger, sadness, hurt, pain, whatever it is, terror even, like it was for me when I first did this. And then here's where we go to step 2. Reconciliation and reconception. And there's a lot of different ways that this can look. There's a lot of different tools that I use and that I suggest to my clients and to others. So one way is simply right there, then and there, if there's time, okay. Like, for example, let's say you were a baby and you were born with a twin sister and you were at the hospital, and for some reason you needed to stay longer in the hospital because you were underweight or you needed to be monitored for whatever reason. And so they took your twin sister and your family went home, and you were left in the hospital by yourself as a newborn baby for 4 days. True story, by the way. You felt completely abandoned, alone, separate. And so, as a little aside, that the first few days, hours, and the whole first life in a baby's life is critically important. That bonding is so, so important. So any separation within hours, especially after birth, is a deep trauma, a core wound of abandonment. Okay. So it's an opportunity right then and there to edit, revise, revisualize, literally change. You're the storyteller now. You're the playwright. Well, guess what? You know what? I'm going to choose my own adventure. I'm going to change this right now. What if, oh, geez, and again, you could either be the observer, the witness, or you could be the actual newborn baby. And you said, oh, well, how about can we go to that luxury suite that's then we, that's set aside for situations like this so our whole family can just hang out for a few days and I can still be monitored and mommy and daddy can still hold me and I can still be with my twin sister because that was another separation wound. We were separated at birth for a few days. Anyways, that's, you could call that reparenting. It's revisualization. It's editing. It's revising. You become the storyteller. You get to choose differently. You get to literally alter the timeline. And that's when we come into the last phase, the last part, known as frequency alteration, an acronym which says FA. And if you think of the musical scale, do, re, mi, fa, that ends up where the heart is. Heart is the seat of the soul. Heart led. Desires come from the heart. So I think it's a great way to remember that. You literally get to alter the frequency of that experience. You get to choose a completely different timeline. You get to do that if you choose, because literally that reality already exists. So you're just choosing the frequency associated with that reality through your revisualization, through your reparenting, through the just rewriting what happened. You're changing the conversations. You get to choose. You get to choose. It's that powerful. It's that powerful. So again, this process, if you don't get, in other words, if you don't get to, maybe you don't label the emotion, that's okay. Maybe you go back and you do the reparenting later. Maybe you actually write a letter. Okay, I know I've written letters in all different types of situations. Like letter writing is such a valuable way to practice forgiveness, to reconnect, to reconcile, to reconceive. And I didn't use those words again, but reconciliation is the restoration of harmony. So you can literally reconcile that whole situation with your family, your parents, the hospital, whatever. And reconception is about reconceiving. So conception is the point of creation, referring to the birth of a child. When a child is conceived, it's when the sperm fertilizes the ovum, becomes a zygote. Yet the point of creation happens with everything, including belief systems, including the messages that say, oh my God, goodness, you're not safe, it's dangerous, you're always going to be abandoned or rejected, life isn't safe. I don't mean to speak that into your reality right now, but you get to reconceive. You get to choose a different point of creation. And that's where, when we talk about frequency alteration, that's where the recreation comes in. You are uncreating and recreating that reality. It's like you're in the what do they call it? The writing room or the story room? Where everybody's, they're looking at the ideas and they're just throwing all these ideas around. You're like, I don't like this one, I don't like that one, I'm going to go with this one. Because there really is no past, present, future. So just grab that parallel reality, decide what kind of alignment, vibrational frequency alignment you want to harmonize with, and you get to do that. You get to choose. So that's, again, the back to life process. Just want to make sure that I did not leave anything out. Reparenting. Yeah, yeah. I know that recently, and I've done this before where I've guided women to, because women with sexual trauma in particular, like I said, they become disconnected from their body, to actually write a letter to their body. Because it could show up as excess weight, an illness, a condition, pain, mobility challenges, all different ways. And then, even me, I started to hate my body. And I did not treat my body well. And so I chose to write a letter to my body to apologize, to reconcile, and then together to reconceive the event or series of events that led to that conflict between me and my body. Reconciliation. Isn't that a beautiful thing? So the letter writing is powerful, and just to share that you could basically apologize and say, wow, I now see how you've been supporting me. And at this point, can we move forward in this way? I think I'm ready to open up more and feel more safe. And it's okay if we release more trauma together. And I'm willing to pay more attention to you and to be more present and to honor the way that you're communicating with me. Okay, so what? And then you sign it. Lovingly yours, blah, 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 you know, the overseer of the, whatever. You decide. Start it with Dear Body. And you could talk about the pain points too. Anyway, so letter writing is so powerful. I do a lot with letter writing. I actually recommend a lot of letter writing, and it's also very helpful in conjunction with inner child work. So the other thing I wanted to mention is the divine blueprint, right? We all have a divine blueprint. It's all perfect, okay? And even the perfect timeline that aligns with all your greatest desires, all your prosperity and everything else that goes with it. And sometimes it just gets like cluttered and we're just kind of cleaning off the windshield, so to speak. So literally with this process and a lot of the tools that I use is you are literally using sacred geometry. You are literally reconfiguring digitally, holographically, that imprint, bringing it back to a divine blueprint that aligns with your deepest desires. Beautiful stuff. It's all, woo, it's real. This is real to the real to the real. Okay, it's the back to life method. And here's the deal right now. This is what I got for you. I've got a lot of links in the comments. I got a lot of freebies for you to access, a lot of other informational YouTube videos to help to support you on this journey at this point. The biggest way I can support you is number one, I've got a weekly Sister Starseed sharing circle, very valuable, just to show up and be in the residence of my own experience and the own divine wisdom that's been brought in through me. And then, of course, the one-on-one coaching is the biggie right now. Okay, the one-on-one coaching, and I'm actually being guided to just kind of hold off on the other program offerings because it's really important first that I get women to begin to release some of that trapped trauma, because until you release some of that trapped trauma, you're really not going to be ready to access more of that quote unquote Shakti energy. You're not really, might have a challenge with connecting the heart to the womb. If we're going to talk about anal play, I'm just saying it's going, I need to help you to soften or facilitate or empower you to soften first, to soften your body, to be more present, to be more still, to be more in a space of receptivity. Because it's just like, I don't know, ice versus warm water. Okay. Ice doesn't really flow. Okay. We're just going to be coming up against hardness in blocks. So we want to kind of remove that first and make it more fluid so that anything else that I bring in, more specifically related to tapping into that full body Shakti and that sacred sexuality, happens and unfolds with greater ease. In other words, one gentle step at a time. Love you so much. I pray that helped. Like I said, always a like, a comment, a subscribe, and a share is always welcome. Give me some feedback. Keep it loving. Love you so much. Peace.